With the Miami Dolphins now getting ready for the Indianapolis Colts, we have an update on Tua Tagovailoa and some other injured players. What is up, Finn fans? That Monday night game last night was something. Holy guacamole. But we're going to talk a little bit about our injured players, being that we're coming back from a bye. Normally today you get a film breakdown, but they didn't play a game on Sunday or Monday or Thursday. So we are going to talk about players coming out of the bye that are banged up, who we can get back, who are not getting back, how long is it going to take for some of these players to get back, because a lot of us are sitting here asking, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, when is Tua going to be able to play? When is Bradley Chubb? When is Isaiah Wynn? When is River Craycraft? When is all of these guys going to practice and start that 21-day clock of them eventually becoming active on the roster? So we're going to jump into all of that. First, we're going to talk about everyone else, and then we'll talk about Tua Tagovailoa. So this is from Barry Jackson. They met with Mike McDaniel, I almost said McDonald, yesterday. He said the Dolphins exited their bye week on Monday with several key players unavailable to practice because of injuries. Linebacker Bradley Chubb and Isaiah Wynn, two starters who are eligible to come off the physically unable to perform list, are not yet ready to practice, Coach McDaniel said. River Craycraft is eligible to come off the IR, but did not practice on Monday. McDaniels didn't rule out the possibility of a player on injured reserve coming back to practice later in the week. Craycraft, safety Patrick McMorris, and cornerback Cam Smith are the players on injured reserve who are now eligible to return. Smith began practicing 2 weeks ago and practiced again on Monday, so I will fully expect him to officially come off the IR, just like Odell came off the PUP. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa isn't eligible to return from IR until next week, and we will talk about him in a second. Among players on the 53-man roster, linebacker David Long Jr., Emmanuel Ogbah, Mo Kamara, and safety Jordan Poyer were not practicing during the portion of Monday's practice open to reporters. I wouldn't be surprised if they mostly got a vet rest day, but especially Emmanuel Ogbah. Long has been dealing with a hamstring injury, and Poyer has been dealing with a shin injury. The reason of the absence of Ogbah and Kamara weren't clear. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Ogbah had a vet rest day. Safety Javon Holland, who broke a bone in his left hand during the New England game, warmed up on Monday before going inside to rehabilitate. Holland has a wrap on his left hand. I could see them going with Campbell and Marcus May as our starting safeties for the Colts game, and then with the Cardinals game, seeing how Holland and Poyer are doing, and even possibly throwing Nick Needham back there, activating or bringing him up off the practice squad and having him be that third safety. It would be a surprise if Poyer played Sunday at Indy. He missed the team's most recent game, a win against New England, with a shin injury sustained in a collision with Jalen Phillips during Monday night's loss to Tennessee. Fun fact, not really a fun fact, that is the collision that hurt his Jalen Phillips' knee, which then later we found out was a worse knee injury than we thought. Running back Devon Achane, who's in concussion protocol, was on the field wearing a red contact jersey. It's a non-contact on Monday, suggesting he is in a later stage of protocol. And I will pull up the NFL concussion protocol so I can kind of tell you the stages, because we're obviously going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa. So I'll talk about all the different stages and all of that other stuff. Meanwhile, Bradley Chubb continued to recover from an ACL sustained December 31st against Baltimore. McDaniel said he's optimistic Chubb will play this season and hasn't had any setbacks, but I don't expect to see Bradley Chubb this week. And I didn't expect him, it was wishful thinking to see him come back this week. I didn't expect to see him come back this week. Maybe the Bills game. I think best case scenario, the Raiders game. I think he's going to take like a couple more weeks to get ready, and hopefully we can get more wins under our belts. If we can go 3-1 in the next 4 games, him coming back would be huge. Wynn hasn't played since sustaining a quadricep injury last October against Philly. The team signed him to a 1-year, $1.9 million contract during the offseason, but he hasn't been able to practice or play since training camp began. For the first time, McDaniel said Monday that Wynn didn't re-injure the same quadricep. Instead, McDaniel said Wynn is dealing with lingering things that did come up that weren't the quad. Residuals in a human body, stress is one area, can lead to stress in another. McDaniel said he doesn't know when he will be able to play, but he had a positive couple of weeks. I don't think Isaiah Wynn is coming off of the IR. I think Isaiah Wynn is going to be done, and such a waste of a spot. I had such high hopes for Wynn. I just don't see him coming. I don't see Isaiah Wynn playing. If I got nothing, because it's just the more I want to say things and I want to be like, win this and should have done this and they should have done that, but it's just falling on deaf ears. Not you guys, but like Greer. You sign Isaiah Wynn to a $1.9 million contract after tearing his quadricep, but then you have Connor Williams, who did really well for us and is now playing for Seattle, started the season with Seattle. It's frustrating, and I'm just done with it. Besides Chubb and Wynn, linebacker Cameron Good is the other player on the PUP list. He's now eligible to return, but isn't ready to practice after sustaining a torn patella tendon in Week 18 against Buffalo. Besides Craig Kraft, defensive back McMorris and Smith are eligible to return immediately from injured reserve. Once a player in injured reserve begins practicing, you get that 21-day, and then they have to be added to the 53-man roster. If not added, then they stay on the IR and they're done for the year. So Craig Kraft and McMorris, their 21-day clock hasn't started because they haven't practiced yet, and it hasn't started for Tua or Grant Dubois because, again, they haven't practiced yet. 4 Dolphins on injured reserve aren't eligible to return this season because they are placed on IR on the final cut down process, which is Cam Brown, Grayson Murphy, Keon Smith, and Taj Washington. The team can remove as many as 8 players from injured reserve during a season and 2 more in the playoffs, provided they miss at least 4 games. The Dolphins have used one of those 8 slots for Odell, and another will be used on Tua. So they have 6 slots open to bring guys back. 2 others should be Craig Kraft and Cam Smith, so then they have 2 other. 3 players on the PUP, Chubb, Wynn, and Good, can be moved to the 53-man roster when they're ready without counting towards the 8-man designation because they're on the PUP. So there's that. So in a nutshell, Chubb seems like he's going to be good in a couple of weeks to start practicing and hopefully get on the field. Like I said, I would, because after they play the Cardinals, they're on the road against Buffalo and then in LA for Monday night. Then they come home for the Raiders. That's the game I can kind of see Chubb coming back because it's a home game. You're not going to do it and have him travel. Wynn, I don't see Wynn playing again this season. And then the other injuries, hopefully, it's nothing serious and we kind of get him back next week home. That's the other thing, and why I expect some players to come back, like Craig Kraft, like Cam Smith, like these guys. I'm trying to think of another name that I want to say, because we're home against the Cardinals. And I think that's a big thing. But the thing everyone wants to talk about is Tua Tagovailoa. Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa received encouraging remarks from a neurologist last week and is expected to play again this season, Coach Mike McDaniel said for the first time Monday. But McDaniel stopped short of saying Tua will definitely practice next week when he is eligible to come off of injured reserve. He will seek additional medical input this week. I'm excited that I do believe he'll play football again this year, having previously declined to speculate on the matter. What Tua is being told by neurologists continue to be positives, McDaniel says. The process continues with more meetings this week. According to sources, Tua hasn't had lingering symptoms since sustaining the concussion on September 12th against Buffalo. That has fueled hope that he could play October 27th at home against Arizona. The scenario remains in play. That's the first game that he's eligible to play after missing the required 4 games while on injured reserve. In the meantime, Tyler Huntley will start against Indy. And now here's the thing, right? I honestly think Tua should play against the the Cardinals. And you might be like, why? Why, Doug? Why do you think that? Well, because he flew with the team to Seattle and he flew with the team to New England. And when you're in concussion protocol, NFL players in concussion protocol are not permitted to travel with the team. I'm reading that off of the site. So if you have a concussion, players can only return, blah, blah, blah. When traveling with a concussion, this is just a different site. You should wait until your doctor clears you and your worst symptoms have passed. Airlines recommend waiting at least 10 days after an incident. So not only did he fly with the team, but he flew with the team and probably is at the butt end of the concussion protocol. And again, you might be asking yourself, well, Doug, what is the concussion protocol? Well, I will show you. This, let me move myself, is the concussion protocol. So you got phase 1. Symptoms limited activity. Let me make this bigger for you guys. The player is prescribed rest, limiting or, if necessary, avoiding activity, both physical and cognitive, which increases or aggravates symptoms. Under athletic training staff supervision, limited stretching and balance training can be introduced. Processing to light aerobatic exercises is tolerated. So again, Devon Achane practiced with a red jersey on. So he is already out of phase 1. Phase 2, aerobic exercise. Under direct oversight of the team's medical staff, the player should begin graduating cardiovascular exercise and may also engage in dynamic stretching and balance training, all that stuff. Then 3, football-specific exercises. The player continues with supervised cardiovascular exercises that are increased and may mimic sport-specific activities. And supervised strength training is introduced. The player is allowed to practice with the team in the sports-specific exercise for 30 minutes. Then there's phase 4, club-based non-contact training drills. The player continues cardiovascular strength and balance and training, team-based sports-specific exercises, and participates in non-contact football activities, throwing, catching, running, all that other stuff. Neurocognitive and balance testing should be completed no later than the end of phase 4, with the results interpreted as back to baseline. So it seems to me that Devon Achane is in phase 4 right here. And then you have phase 5. Let me move myself again. Phase 5 here, full football activity such as clearance upon clearance of the club's physician for a full football activity involving contact. The player must be examined by the independent neurologist, consult INC, assigned to the club. If the INC occurs with the club's physician, then the player concussion has resolved, he may participate, yada yada. So again, it seems like Devon Achane is in phase 4, and I ain't talking about Marvel. So it seems to me, again, Tua traveled with the team, and no, if you're in concussion protocol, you should not be traveling with the team, and he did. So if that's the case, what I expect to happen is this week Tua will go get more tests, hopefully get more positive things. There have been doctors after doctors in all of these different articles and stuff saying the longer time you have, the more your brain heals and the less susceptible you are to concussions, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. I would be shocked if Tua doesn't start practicing next Wednesday and doesn't play against the Arizona Cardinals. And this might sound selfish, but I'm not saying he needs to or should. I think he should, because again, if you're traveling with the team, that means your concussions aren't bad or you don't have any, because you shouldn't be traveling with the team. The team needs them. The season needs them. But if the doctors come back and say, you ain't good yet, then he ain't going to play, and then we go with what we have. But if the doctor's like, all right, you're fine, you can play. You could have played 2 weeks ago, but it's good that they were precautionary and put you on IR, so you got your 4-week rest. If it's Mike McDaniel being a scaredy cat and babying Tua, this isn't the time to do it. If the doctors say he's good, if Tua wants to play, and if he's out of concussion protocol, play him. Because like I said in yesterday's video, when people need to step up, a lot of people are saying, if we lose to the Colts and we're sitting here at this, or if we lose to these guys and our record is this, you might as well just sit them. Why would you play them? One, jobs are on the line. Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel's job are on the line, and I understand that Mike McDaniel signed a contract extension, but I've seen Phillips and I've seen Tony Sparano get fired in the same year that they signed a contract extension. They don't mean bupkis. Chris Greer's job is on the line. Jobs are on the line because if the season falls apart because we can't find a quarterback to replicate anything that Tua does in this offense, the positives, we are going to lose games we shouldn't, and we will suck, and then people are going to get fired. Also, you're paying him a buttload of money. Play him. Again, let me preference this again. If he's healthy, if the doctors clear him, and if he wants to, play him. Why be scared to put him out there for him to take a hit again? If he wants to play, if the doctors say he can play him. Plain and simple. And then real quick before we get out of here, there were some other things. McDaniel talked about Huntley. He said he has improved every work we've had. I'm excited for him because there is so much that gets lost in the NFL game for a player to have confidence and conviction going into it. McDaniel also said the bye week for Huntley was different than it for most players. For him, it was imperative that he could get more time and tasks to study and review the footwork of some of the core concepts and core fundamentals. Coach says that the no hitch in breaks that have generated so many explosiveness for their offense was something he has never done before. And this is where I think it was the Titans game. I think it was the Titans game. We had back-to-back-to-back flags for illegal motion. It's because you need to. This offense is difficult to run. It's a cookie cutter, easy offense. It's not. It's very difficult to run, and you need to snap the ball at the right times. That's why the Dolphins struggle on the road, because even with Tua at the helm, you can't hear for the ball to get snapped at the right time. And that's what Tua was good at, especially last year when we were very good at home, is when the motion happens, Tua will, in his peripherals, know when to snap that ball so that when Tyreek runs up the field, it is not an illegal motion and it's not a penalty. He will snap it at the right time as Tyreek is starting to curve, boom, snap it. Versus here comes the motion, and then there's a hitch. Like he said, there's a giddy up. There's a pause where the player now has to stop and wait. Motion, stop and wait, then go. The motion is gone. It's out the window. That cheat motion that we do, that they like to call, it's out the window because the player now stops. There is motions to recognize, is this a zone or a man defense? But the motions we're doing, it's completely different. So I'm glad to see that Huntley is kind of, getting back in there. Jalen Waddle said Tyler Huntley asked him to go back earlier during the bye week so they can continue to build on the field chemistry. Waddle said Snoopy trying to get work in, which I absolutely love to hear. And that's what I needed to see, especially during this bye week. You have 2 weeks to get prepared again for a bad defense. The Colts have 29th in pass, 30th in run. Should be scoring more than 14 points. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you tomorrow with the picks. But like usual, stay classy. Events up.